Hey, what's up everybody? BDF 44 coming at you with another video. So I'm only making a video because a bunch of coincidences kind of just hit at one time. The playlist I listened to tonight that I made earlier today, it was one of those situations where I listened to the whole thing, and then the way Apple Music's playlist is set up right, or Apple Music's app is set up, it starts playing random music. And Doja Cat Need to Know started playing, and I really liked that song, so I added it to the playlist. As soon as I got off of my phone, as soon as I finished listening to that song and added it to the playlist, I went to IG and Doja was on her IG live. I don't know how I ended up clicking on her IG live. Before the song was even over, she was on my screen. That was an interesting coincidence. Before I started playing the playlist, moving on to something else, I was sitting up before I even started watching the game, which was awesome, by the way. The Colorado Buffs just played a phenomenal football game, and I was, kind of letting my phone charge so that I could watch the full game, because I had it on like 50%, and I knew I wasn't gonna be able to watch the whole game if I did it that way. It wasn't on my regular television here, so I just kind of put my phone on the charger and decided to do a little praying. And throughout the course of my praying, I was doing all types of remembering of all different types of things. Just sitting there going through a reminiscent process, myself and the Lord, more or less. And I fell onto my little bro, Vernon. And I was just sitting up thinking about when I had a dream that he was going to be born, more or less. I was in the supermarket with my mom, and I was sitting in the little seat that you have where you push the cart, and you got the little baby seat, because I'm only like 3 years old. And my mother had turned to me and said, "Hey, you're gonna be a big brother." And I was just so excited about that, and ended up waking up out of the dream, and only to find out that my stepmom really was pregnant with my very first little sibling. Like the very next day, I was told the truth that my dream was a prophetic one. And I was just thinking about how happy that made me feel. I remember the first time I saw him sitting in his, it's not a stroller, but the little rock thing that you put the babies in. And I remember sitting right next to that rock thing while watching something on TV, and just looking at his little face and feeling so excited about my little brother. And I was thinking of how he was the very first thing I was actually able to celebrate after the traumatic incident took place. It was almost like the Lord helped me finally have, it was like he was the in my own little weird way, he was like the joy at the end of that hell. You know what I mean? Because that happened when I was 2. Found out about him when I was 3, and of course you don't have no sense of nothing when you're a baby as far as time is concerned. And I just sat there and meditated on that, and I was telling God how happy I was that that he was able to survive the 3 tours that he had as a Marine. Proud of him. I was telling God that I'm so thankful he was able to be a father now, and all of the different things, and his little girl is growing up so fast. And I sat there and I was meditating on my little brother Vernon, and then I started thinking about the siblings as well, and just told my God, I love all my siblings, but my brother Vernon was like the one thing that after that traumatic experience happened, it was like that was my reward for surviving it. I was able to be a big brother, only to find out that today's his birthday. Like right now. And I knew it, of course, because I know what his birthday is, but I didn't know the date. You know what I'm saying? But to have meditated on my little brother and his birth on his 35th birthday without actually knowing it, remembering the prophetic dream that I had about him being born, or rather being, coming into the world the day before I found out about it. And I'm just like, wow, this is too much, man. After I finished seeing Doja Cat, I saw my stepmother's post that reminded all of us that it was his birthday. And I'm like, yo, what is God doing, man? What's up with all these coincidences that's happening? So I figured I just better get up here and just capture this moment, because I'm telling y'all, everything that is going on in this room has been like really, really special for me. You go through certain things in your life, and you have these moments in time where it's almost like I'm in a layover between circumstances. I went through 11 years of living at Lennox, only to find myself found myself here. But I'm only going to be here for a total of 3 weeks. But these 3 weeks, I've been through so many different changes, and have gone through so much different spiritual stuff. As I told you guys on September 1st about that huge coincidence and all those different things that had happened with finding out that couple of who had their twins on their birthday happened to have my birthday, only for it to be September 1st, which was my mom's birthday, and Karen's brother's birthday, who happened to be buried at the same place in the same section. It's like, you hear all these coincidences I'm talking about. And so all of this was happening here. All of these different things. September 1st happened here. I got here on the 31st rather, I think it was. And then the first was the next night. So it's like these type of coincidences are so very intertwined and so very perfect in how they're aligned. And then I had the worst nightmare I've had in my entire life here yesterday. And to have had that meditation, this was one of the most incredible meditative moments that I've had. I don't even know if that's a word, but before any of the coincidences even happened, I just realized I was telling God throughout the meditation, like, this feels like one of those checkpoints in life where you get a chance to stop and reflect upon your life. And I was thinking about things I hadn't thought about maybe ever. I realized that I hadn't fully mourned my mama's passing. I was talking to God about how certain things that happened in my life, things that I wouldn't even want to talk to people about because they just don't paint other people in the greatest light. But I was confessing them to God, and certain things that he taught other people through the things that happened to me taught me to respect him more and all of that. I mean, I was sitting there meditating for probably about 2 hours. I lost track of time, but the whole first half of the game was gone by the time I picked up my phone. But it was just one of those really, really, really special moments where I was able to find peace with God in a way that you want to find when you meditate. You want to, you sit down and say, okay, I'm just going to pray to God and see if he can give me some type of direction on what to do next. And what ends up happening is he ends up taking you down memory lane, and you start thinking about people who you loved and passed away. You start thinking about where you're at in life. You start thinking about all the people you love and how much you appreciate them, and you ask God to bless them, and you start realizing he has in certain things. I was telling God, I'm so thankful I ain't been getting them phone calls that we hate to receive in life. So every day I'm thankful that all the people I love are okay. But I stopped on my little brother. Like, I really stopped at him and meditated on him for like a good 20 minutes. And kind of just realized at that moment, having never realized this before, but it was almost like the Lord blessed me with a little brother after going through hell, just absolute hell, man. And how I was thankful that he's given him such a incredible journey thus far. How proud I am of him, and how happy I am to see his little girl. She has his whole face, you know what I mean? She's growing, standing and walking now. She's, I don't know, probably about 2 now, maybe a little more than that. And it's just like, to find out, probably subconsciously already knew, but to find out it's his birthday right now, it's just like too much. And in Doja Cat, that coincidence is especially incredible because I just put her on the prayer list. She's the newest person to the prayer list. And if you guys know about the prayer list, I've been adding people to that list for over 3 years now, maybe 4 years. And that list has kind of given me the strength to connect with God. And it's one of those situations where that song wasn't on the playlist. Now, her latest song, the very latest song, I don't know what it's called, that's on the playlist that I put on tonight. But they just happened to make that the next song they wanted to play after my playlist ended. And of course, maybe I didn't mention this, but I was half asleep, so I didn't get a chance to like lift my head up and realize my playlist was over and that a new song was playing until I started realizing I was vibing to the song. It woke me up. I'm like, Need to Know is hard. Doja was cutting that thing up, all the different things she was doing. I'm like, this is a talented person. I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't put this on my playlist. And I was like, yo, let me put this on my playlist. only to start clicking around on my phone, and the first thing I see is her on the live. So that I go on there, I go on her live, and I just put on there, I'm like, yo, need to know it's hard. I don't even know if she saw that, but that was the first thing I put. I'm like, I'm listening to that at random. The song's hard. And it was just one of those situations where it's like, yo, after she ended her live, coincidentally, like a second after I put that on there, she just happened to end her live. And the first thing I see on my phone without even clicking out of the app is my stepmother's post telling me it was my brother's birthday, man. So I'm just watching God work, man. I'm just watching God work. That's all there is to it. I'm watching God work. I put Doja Cat on that list because she's been doing what people think is demonic and putting a lot of stuff up there that kind of paints her out to be somebody that I don't know if she actually is or not. But to be honest with you, I know this young lady is very talented. I know that. I can hear it in how she operates through her music. There's a lot of artists out there who they put out just because they look a certain way or just because of whatever, but some people are actually really gifted and it gets lost in that. And I sense that. I sense she's a really gifted artist. She's not just pop and snuff and fluff. If they strip her down to all that, machine nonsense and you just leave her in the studio, she can come up with some fire, man. She really can. I know it. She has cadence gift, she has tone gift, she has a lot of different things. She can rap, she has a lot of different aspects of musical talent that I sense as someone who's musically inclined. And so for me, it's like, I just want to put her on that list because she has been dabbling in stuff that seems demonic, and I know that she probably doesn't know exactly how that is not to be toyed with, you know what I mean? Because she's still a young person. Really young, as I always talk about, some people in their young 20s, they don't know. It's just kind of cool to mess with certain stuff, until you get to a point where you start seeing what God can do for you and you realize it ain't nothing, he's nothing to play with. And that was one of the things that my meditation helped remind me of, as I said, certain things that I've gone through in life that have taught me by way of my own mistakes, by way of other people's mistakes, by way of how people have done certain things to me and then how it didn't work out for them, to learn not to play with God and not toy with him. And to also say that sometimes when people mess around with things that are supposed to be quote unquote demonic, a lot of those images ain't demonic at all. They're just extremely artistic and are dark, but it doesn't mean that there's evil attached to them. But it can be, you know what I mean? It's one of those types of things like, they're not demonic. They don't think it's demonic. They just think it's cool. She reminds me of a friend of mine from back in the day. I'm not going to mention that. I don't want to, but she used to mess around with stuff that people would consider demonic, but I knew her soul. She was a wonderful human being, still is. You know what I mean? But she just went through a phase where she wanted to do different things and that's how it would come off to others who did not understand what she was, what her culture was. But, I learned by hanging out with her and some of her buddies that sometimes even some of the people that y'all think are the darkest of the dark or the most gothic of the gothics and mess around with all kinds of dark colors and spiders and paint their eyes and all this type of stuff and like skulls and stuff like that. Hanging out with some of those folks, I too got along with them in ways that helped me understand that you could find good and bad everywhere, including in their places. You know what I mean? It was one of those type of eye-opening experiences for me because I didn't mess around with gothic energy or gothic culture. But until I started hanging out with my buddy, who reminded me of Doja Cat, I started realizing that, all of her friends were really cool people. All of her friends had really good intentions, clean individuals who just happened to have a different culture than me, you know what I mean? Who happened to dabble in stuff that I was taught was evil. And it wasn't really no evil to them. Like they weren't evil people at all. In fact, they were very, very good people. And it was understood they were good people and they weren't dabbling in nothing, you know what I mean? They might have had like witchcraft culture or something like that, maybe they did, but I'm telling you, solid, fun human beings to be around. I went to their club one time and had a wonderful night, that kind of thing. And it's just, I've been fortunate enough to understand that. Now I grow up 20 years later and see Doja Cat and I see how people responded to her. I even see how I was thinking about what she was doing, and I realized, nah, that's a talented individual. Let me throw her on the prayer list to make sure that she's covered, man. And so that's what I've done. And then all of a sudden, of course, he's part of this phenomenally awesome coincidence that I could put on here for all of you guys to hear about. So that's really what it's about, man. I just wanted people to know what I've been having happen this evening and how it connects to everything else that's been going on for the last 2 weeks in this hotel room. It's been a special checkpoint in my life. Like a video game where you find a secret level or something like that. You know what I mean? You go through the long, hard, tough levels that you go through, and then you got a bonus level where all you do is collect the coins, you know, like a Mario, that kind of thing, man. This is what this feels like for me. And I don't know where I'm headed next, so segueing into a good level or a worse one, I don't know. But right now, I just feel like I've been blessed. It's teaching me something. I've been spiritually inclined here. And a lot of things have happened in this short period of time that's helped me understand that the journey I'm on is a good one. That even though I haven't really enjoyed my life, I've been talking about wanting to quit because things are very hard right now and uncertain right now. The thing that this is teaching me throughout the course of these 2 weeks I've been here is to train myself to go to God. As I was telling you guys in the earlier videos, that I don't really trust my instincts like I used to. I do trust my faith. I trust my ability to turn to God and listen to the Spirit, but I definitely don't trust my natural mind. And this is one of the first time where I can say I fully don't. Things that make me ultimately scared and anxious are often things that are hiding something great that I often needs to go through. You know what I mean? If I would have adhered to those anxieties that dream put me through yesterday morning, I would have never had the day that I ended up having, which I would not trade for nothing in the world. It was a good day, a meaningful one too. And it seemed like that dream and those anxieties were trying to keep me from it. And the other times, it's like I look up and I realize some of the stuff that I was doing when I was comfortable to coerce me into sins that ultimately coerced me into circumstances like these. Or sitting back being complacent because nothing was wrong, trusting my instincts that I could relax. Those things were actually the things that should be anxious and scary because they were leading me toward the worst of consequences. You know, to turn to God and not to your natural mind. And to think of those who don't know of a God and how they live in their natural mind all the time, and that's how their mind goes into places that they don't want to be in. And to know they can come out of that and come to the same conclusion I did, so to not judge them as they do. People were engaging in evil energy yesterday, like the dude that was sitting behind me, saying all that stuff he was saying about people who were around him and their races. You know, I'm like, yo, this is an awful human being. I don't like this dude. I don't like how he's coming off, and I don't like how he's painting a picture of people who look like me based on what's coming out of his mouth, trying to be evil to make others who are around us feel bad about themselves, or try to make them feel like they're not important or what have you. Thinking about that, and then further understanding that he couldn't too change his mind by getting knocked around by life and seeing how God is not to be toyed with. And to not judge him no more than I wouldn't want anybody judging me when I was relaxing and doing things that ultimately coerce me into circumstances I can't stand. I'm telling you, man, even in these circumstances that I can't stand, I'm seeing beauty in them. And that's the beauty of God, because he can turn your hell into something that teaches you something. He can turn your struggle into something that gives you a backbone, or something that gives you a crown on your head, or something that coerces you toward the best things you ever had. Yeah, I was thinking about what would have happened if I would have engaged in some type of argument with that dude that said he was going to hit me over the head with something. What would have happened if I would have came up to him with my ego and my natural mind and said, what was it that you said? You sure you want to run that by me? No part of me was in that mindset, but just to think if I might have, what that would have done, how that would have derailed my life if I would have crashed out on that dude and met his demons with mine, just because he had said something that ultimately would have otherwise been threatening to me, to test to see his gangster, to see if he was really with that. Instead, I just stayed doing what I was doing, knowing he couldn't touch me unless I did. And how I want to share that with y'all, because a lot of times it's exactly how it goes when the enemy is dancing around you or trying to coerce you into something, trying to poke you, trying to get your ego to get wrapped up in what he wants you to do, and how that could derail you into hells you don't want, or into circumstances that could get you off the earth, or even something like, something that could really just derail your life. And how those paths, even through those paths, you could find things that are beautiful. Even through those paths, the Lord could derail you away from the worst of that and propel you into circumstances where you end up having a good life anyway. took me down a path to understand that you probably do want to avoid certain things like that, but if for some reason you make that mistake, it ain't over for you necessarily, especially if you believe, but to avoid them just the same. Don't allow the enemy to coerce you into circumstances that give you pain. All that enemy can do is dance. All he can do is wolf. All he can do is speak. Unless you engage with him, he can't touch you. And that's what came to me yesterday when that dude was upsetting me. He's terrified. He was engaging in jailhouse defensive mechanisms. You walk around me a couple times, I suddenly feel afraid. Either I'm going to fight you or I'm going to tell you I'm going to fight you to keep you from fighting me. But I'm not a threat to him, so what is it that he can do to me? If I'm not a threat to him, it's no worries. It's his worries that I would otherwise be reacting to. And the wisdom that was ultimately the truth. I said all this to say that my mind is racing because I know the Lord wants me to say these things. It doesn't take much for me to express what's in my mind, and I appreciate that ability. And I hope that through what it is that I've said, I've helped somebody some way kind of coerce themselves away from listening to their natural mind and doing that dance with the enemy, and ultimately coercing them into spaces that allow them to recognize that you can turn to something greater than yourself and have some sense of direction, some sense of understanding is how best to not do those dances. A meditative practice that you may be able to engage in yourself that'll make you reflect on some things, help you realize some things that maybe you don't look at very much, or maybe have you remember some people that maybe you don't think much about because it hurts too much to look in your past to see how they've passed, etc. I went through all that tonight, all of it. And I was also able to celebrate some people who are still alive. I'm happy they're alive. People that I need to call more, reach out to more, pray for more. And maybe it's those prayers that'll help me do so. Only to find out the Lord has proven himself through these experiences. So I can ask you to go ahead and see what he'll prove to you once you go into a space of meditative mindsets or what have you. Whether you share faith with me or share thoughts that I share, or maybe you have a different way of going. But if you give yourself an opportunity to just meditate whenever you get a quiet space to do so, you might realize a few things that maybe I haven't realized in my own little space, but something that you can share with the rest of us too. I think that's what it's about nowadays. This internet thing can be a gift and a curse, and I don't think a lot of people are using it the way I've learned works for me. And I was listening to, I believe it was Scrappy. I think it was Lil Scrappy, man. No problems. He was essentially getting on internet and telling people, the internet is meant for women to be vulnerable, not men. Men need to look for help, psychological help. Don't get on here and talk about your problems. It's not going to be received well. These people can't help you. All they're going to do is troll you and judge you for being vulnerable. I would tell Scrappy, with all due respect, you ain't never heard of BDF. I'm different, brother. That's exactly what I do. And I'm not a sweet man or anything like that. I love women. I consider myself a man with an ego, a man of respect, but I'm vulnerable in a sense that I'm going to tell you every damn thing about me. I'm going to tell y'all about every fear of mine. It's not because I'm looking for anybody to help me. It's because I know through what it is I do, I can help you. I'm not afraid of these people judging me. That's just the enemy's dance. I've spent a lot of time worried about that, so don't get it twisted. That is one of my fears, but at this point, I just know I can bull through it. Being that of someone who was afraid to respond to comments and things like that because I didn't want to be trolled, but at the same time, the confusion of it all was that I wanted to let others know what I was going through. I wanted the control to be able to share what I wanted to share, because that is the overall consensus that men are not supposed to. And I'm redefining manhood because that's what evolution's about. I was thinking about evolution itself, like it's the Lord getting better at being an artist. It's not just men and women growing into new heights and people getting stronger and animals growing stronger as time progresses, but it's the Lord becoming an even greater architect as we continue to be made by in his image. He's getting better as an artist, just like I'm getting better as an artist with every passing art piece I do, with every passing playlist I make. He made us in his image, so we have nothing to fear. It's the culture that ultimately is not evolved enough to understand that being vulnerable is not something to fear, but a strength in and of itself, especially if it helps yourself and others. So that's what I would tell that brother. If you don't think your truth can help anybody and you're looking for others to help you in regards to speaking out, then by all means, brother, look for somebody who can professionally provide you the answers you're looking for. I'm doing so too. But one of the problems that I found is that I can't find the help I need on the level I'm on because I don't really have a lot. So they want to talk to me once a month. I need to be able to talk to people 3, 4, 5 times a day for the type of stuff I got going on. And so that's what I do. I'm not waiting for the help to come to me. I bring it to you. And it's through that faith that I have that ultimately gives me the strength to do so. I don't have to worry about how I'll come off. I'm helping you understand how to receive me. I'm redefining what I think the black image is going to be going forward. Not just a gangster, not just fighting people, not just looking for problems, not just telling people they don't want problems, with respect to my man Scrappy, but finding solutions for those problems, the problems that I have, and hopefully bringing something to somebody else that they can grab and do something with. I don't think that's for everybody. I think you should take his advice, especially if you do things that you ain't got no business telling people, or you don't have sense enough to know what triggers others, things of that nature. It might not be for you to do this. It's a talent of mine. It's a gift of mine. It's a purpose of mine. But just at the same time, it's not just for women to be vulnerable. It's for anybody who has something of substance, who can afford to do so, to use that opportunity to let the world know the journey you on to prove God exists in your life. Because that's ultimately what everybody's looking for, is the right to look up at the sky and see something there that they actually can't see, but to believe it's there more so. Something that can help them, you know. That's what my purpose is, to try to help you understand what it is I see, and maybe through what it is he does around my life, coupled with what comes out of my mouth, you can be certain that a God exists behind that curtain. So that's what I'm here to say, man. I think that the Lord has done a great thing in making me the way that I am, because now others can look and see what I do and hopefully feel differently than Scrappy. Maybe he can turn on the camera and say, you know what, forget that, man. I got something going on. I don't care if y'all can help me or not. I don't care if y'all feel me or not. This is my truth, and this is what I got. Show him a different type of man, a man that he can respect in a different type of way. That's what I hope to bring to all of y'all, man, because God put that in my heart. I'm almost 40 years old. I don't have time to be waiting for others to figure out what's wrong with me. I got to figure it out myself. And so this is my way of doing so, you know, meditating first and then letting the Lord guide me toward my purpose and so on and so forth. So I'm going to send a special happy birthday to my brother, Vernon. Of course, it goes without saying. Should have already said that, but y'all know that's one of the many people that come together to make my heart in this life, you know. Even though I haven't been the greatest big brother to him, because my anxiety has kept me away from him, you know. That's just the God's honest truth, and maybe that's an excuse, but it's one I know. It's the truth I believe. It wasn't nothing he did. It wasn't anything that he said or any bad interaction between me and him. I just got comfortable staying away from everybody. And in turn, he just happened to be a body that I stayed away from. But he's more than that, man. That's my heart right there. That's my little brother. That's the person the Lord brought to our lives, to my family's life, but particularly to my life, to signify that I had come out of something traumatic. Give me something to be happy about after going through the worst thing I would ever go through. And that's what Vernon was, is, and will continue to be. Shares my father's name. And I was looking at my face and I saw within myself, finally seen within myself. Because for the longest time I didn't know who I looked like. in this life in regards to my family. I know I don't look like my mom, and I didn't really think I looked like my father, but I hadn't figured it out. I am a Vernon Thurman hybrid. Half my grandfather from my nose to my top of my head, half my father from my bottom of my mouth, up top of my mouth to the bottom of my chin. That's who I look like, a combination of both of them. Strong men, military men, men of God. Guys who persevered many things, man. My grandfather's lost 2 daughters and a wife. My father survived so many different things, has so many kids, left me with such a massive family, all of which I think of right now, pray for. That's who I am. A combination of both of them. And I'm proud of that. So when I look in this camera, I try to represent them properly in my own way. Even though neither one of them raised me, still though. You know? So that's what I wanted to say here, man. I want to let my mind go. It feels like still an extension of that meditation, to be honest with you. I enjoyed the heck out of that game too. I ain't gonna lie, man. Double overtime. Phenomenal stuff, man. Should definitely be up for that Heisman Trophy. And this is just one of them nights, man. I'm glad I was able to capture it in this form. Let y'all know how this night is going. It's been great. Playlist was great. Go check out Delete CD 360 on Apple Music, BDF 44 at Apple Music. That's where I'm at, man. Look up BDF 44 anywhere, because I'm going to be everywhere eventually. I made the decision to get my LLC. I don't know when I'm going to have the money to pay for it, but it ain't that expensive. But that's going to be something I look to do. Trademark everything I do. Turn it into something for real, a real business, instead of just something I do as a pastime. All these different things that I have in my mind and my likeness attached to, I'm going to turn it into a business of some sort. I don't plan on making people pay for stuff they're already getting for free, but I'm going to give them something else too. It's a lot to me, you know. I hope that this is what the next phase of my life will be. Next chapter, so to speak. It's funny because part of that meditation helped me realize that the Lord had told me this was a new chapter. About 3 weeks ago, I was putting some art on one of my random sites that I usually put my art on. I think it was Art Deviant. Check me out there as well, BDF 44. And I was getting ready to post some art, and I heard this voice in my head saying something along the lines of, "This completes the latest chapter of your life. We are entering a new chapter now." And it wasn't nothing new, wasn't special going on. The sheriffs hadn't put the notice on my door yet. He was coming the next day. I didn't know that. I still thought that what Karen Bass had said about nobody needing to leave because the sheriffs weren't coming was still in place. So I knew at some point I needed to get out of there, but I thought that particular thing probably wasn't going to happen as soon as it was. And when you fast forward to what happened after that moment, I realized, man, that was the end of Lennox. The Lord literally told me that I was done with an entire chapter of my life and I would be entering this one, only to find out just how real that was. That's why I tell y'all I trust that spirit, man. It ain't just me sitting up here talking to y'all about it and saying God is real. No, he be doing all kinds of stuff. And I only come to that conclusion because I think he really has plans for me. And it ain't just to exalt me, or it ain't just to let me go through a life where I do what I do and then go on the ground. He wants me to leave something here that's going to be impactful. He gave me all these abilities and all these struggles and all these disadvantages and all these talents, whatever the heck the combination of all this stuff is, because it's supposed to be something for somebody else for a long time, maybe forever. Maybe this video can be like some type of time capsule, or maybe all the different things that I do can be like timeless, like a pyramid or something found thousands of years from now or something. That's what I hope. that the wisdom I speak can be interpreted in languages that aren't even made up yet. Because the truth will still remain. And if you turn to God, He will help guide your brain. Regardless of what evolution you may be. If you're flying human or alien, it don't matter. Your Creator will help you through what it is that goes on and show you what matters. And that's essentially what it is I'm here to show everybody through all the things that I do. So why wouldn't it last forever? I'm thankful for my life, man, even though it's been rough. At times I talk about leaving it and wanting to get out of it. One of the things I definitely want to do is be a dad, and I haven't done that yet. I think about passing on the Deloney bloodline. You know, since through my grandfather, I'm his only grandson. Only grandbaby. I gotta be the one to pass that on. I want to have a family, you know. I have to make sure that we live on. And will. One of the things the Lord confirmed to me tonight is that He is going to let me be a dad. Believe it or not, He told me that tonight in His own way. I expect to be a father before I leave this earth, so I can't go away. Like I've been talking about wanting to leave. No, that's not in the cards. If what He told me through my meditation tonight is true, I'm going to be a pops at some point. I got to get through some of these things that I'm going through now before I feel like I'd be a responsible one, though, so that means I just have to follow Him and trust Him and not rebuke things that are meant for me, because I tend to do that in my natural mind. But that's what prayer's for. And I asked Him to put me in position to make me both comfortable but not worse, because you know how it is. When you're comfortable, you tend to get into circumstances that you have no business getting into. At least I do. So I asked Him to allow me to have something I want for myself in regards to my living situation, and something that will make it so that I don't fall back into old ways. I want Him to lead me in the right direction so that I can be on the path that allows me to get closer to Him, not further away. I don't want to go back to the way I was, but I do find myself still comfortable with certain things that I had, like my own space and the ability to have my own routine and such, you know. Stuff that is unique to my own conditioning. But if He wants me to break that cycle in order to get to where He wants me to go, or if He thinks that it would be better for me to live with someone, then I want Him to put me in a position to want that rather than to rebuke that or be frustrated with that as it comes. So that was part of my meditation tonight too, not knowing what's next, not really having control over my own destiny as of yet. Knowing what makes me comfortable, but also knowing that it can also make me my worst, not my best. And not even really trusting that, for that matter, to be honest with you. I just trust God at this point. That's really the only thing. So that's really what I have on my heart right now, man. I hope all this made sense. I didn't think I would make a video this long. All I was going to do is tell you about a couple coincidences and move on, but that's what it is, man. It's been a meditative night, a special night, a God-filled night, and a beautiful night at that. And so I hope you all are having a great day or night or whatever time you're watching this. Don't allow yourself to beat yourself up for things you haven't done, or things you did wrong, or maybe you did a dance with the devil the wrong way and now you're in some consequences. You don't think anything good can come your way, but it's like I said, he can send you down the right path from here. It is best you stay away from those things, but don't think the Lord can't coerce you back on the right track just because you made a few mistakes or what have you. Turn to the Spirit, man. Everybody has it in them. You just gotta trust it. My mother used to tell me the Holy Spirit is your comforter. So that's what I tell all of y'all. And that Holy Spirit is an inner peace that comes from the one above, that'll let you know when you're doing right from wrong, that'll let you know when you're in the presence of love. That is what the Holy Spirit is. It's a compass for all of us. Ready-made, built inside of us. We're made in His image and He left us a piece of Him. within us. So you trust it. Not the doubt, but the faith. It's a much better predictor than your doubt will ever be. My name is BDF 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.